another day, another DC-centric video. So we are talking about the SnyderVerse, the DC Extended Universe, DC Films, the Hamadaverse, the Warstuverse. Right, let's get into it. But first, guys, check us out on Instagram at Warstu if you want to see the face behind the voice. Also, check us out on Twitter, WarstuG. Right, let's get into this video. So you've been requesting these kind of videos all the time. So let's first break down information. So you have the trades, like the Deadline, the Variety, right? That is the top of the chain. They are the kind of websites that will get in trouble if they post clickbait stuff, but at the same time, them kind of websites also have the agendas. Then you've got like the fancy websites, like Bounding Into Comics, CRB.com, Geeksocity, them kind of websites who will publish absolute fan pieces and say, we have our sources, okay? So before you decipher information, you've got to see where it comes from. Does it come from like a fancy website like Geeksocity? Does it come from like CRB.com, comicbook.com? Is a trade, Collider, trade, the Hollywood Reporter, trade. But you've also got to look at the bigger scale and actually read what exactly it says, because every single website, regardless of where it's coming from, and literally you could drop a website today, the Warstuverse, and I could drop an exclusive on there, but it doesn't really mean much unless there's any substance. So just be careful, guys, where you're getting your information from. Although everyone wants the SnyderVerse and the Warstuverse to continue, you need to chill. We see the hashtags. We also see the continue the Monsterverse hashtag, which is absolutely fire. It really is. So everyone's wondering, why haven't they published any figures to do with how well the Justice League Snyder Cut is doing on the streaming service HBO Max? Well, you can still see from the analytics that it's #1 above Godzilla vs. Kong. So it's still #1 even after Godzilla vs. Kong's come out. So that is a very good metric. So the main reason why they're not releasing any data is because, as you said in previous videos, Zack Snyder and his team will be sitting down or have already sat down with the people over at Warner Media, talk about budgets, talk about analytics, to talk about how absolutely everything is gonna be happening. Absolutely everything. Justice League 2, Justice League 3, Affleck Batman series, which is actually pretty damn cool if you actually look into the data and the information that's already out there. But much more than that. Why do you think you're now getting big celebrities? You're getting all the actors, the dark side, voice actors getting tuned in. Everyone's tuning in now. Kevin Smith's tuning in. Everyone's tuning in because secretly, a lot of people know what's happening behind the scenes. And a lot of people are trying to save face. You know, like on Twitter, you get these people going, yeah, we told you there was no Justice League 2 and 3. And then now what you'll see is happening over the next week or so. You'll see they start to backtrack. And the same kind of people that said that Ben Affleck was done as Batman, but wait a minute. We here on the channel, we spoke about Ben Affleck coming back for the Flash movie and also doing some stuff for the Justice League Snyder Cut before most people. And that happened and is happening with the Flash movie. And now starting to backtrack and come out with things like, oh yeah, Ben Affleck's actually interested in doing more work now because he enjoyed his time during the additional photography with Zack Snyder. He loved it so much. But remember, guys, he was an alcoholic. It destroyed his life. But now, these aren't new reports. We've been talking about this for nearly a year now. A new report claims that Affleck is keen to stay on as the DCEU Dark Knight. I don't actually believe he's ever referred to himself as that. But the condition is if Zack Snyder also remains on board. Of course, the filmmaker has nothing to do with The Flash unless he takes an EP credit. So what is interesting here is they literally rewrote the script of the Flash movie for Ben Affleck. Yet you people seem to think that Ben Affleck is coming back to allegedly die in the Flash movie. And then let's get into this Michael Keaton stuff. So Michael Keaton is going to be an old man Bruce Wayne. They're going to kill off Batflleck in the Flash movie, right? Apparently, which is actual fake news. And then Michael Keaton is going to become old man Bruce Wayne. And Michael Keaton isn't even sure if he wants to do this movie anymore. So I've been putting some stuff up on Twitter over the last few days, and new stuff going, like, trying to get me to make videos about it. But what's interesting is the information I'm being told now is no real different to the information I was told 6 months ago. It just seems that HBO Max, the people over there high up, we're not talking Ann Cernoff level, we're talking Jason Keeler level. They are really interested in doing it like they have been already throughout this whole thing, which is interesting. It's like I said at the start of the video in the prologue, you really do have to look at where information is coming from. Is it coming from like your fancy website like Geeksocity or something like that, or is it coming from a reputable website? Now, what is interesting is recently, well, not recently now, a few months back, Zack Snyder came out with the exact same information that was posted from a website where essentially what it said was the content of the story in the Batman, either TV series or movie, will be centric around the backstory of Joker and the death of Robin, Bruce's divorce and decomposition of Wayne Manor, and they've currently been scouting locations, looking for actors who will portray Robin, and we've been told the actors are looking for Christopher Robin as an adult, and this incarnation a seasoned actor that will meet his demise at the hands of the Joker. And then obviously Joe Manganiello, like Deathstroke, is coming out and talking a lot about this stuff is interesting. And then it goes on to say the Deathstroke portion of the story includes a backstory of Slade Wilson, Bill Wintergreen, and the contract of Lex Luthor. Jesse Eisenberg is close to signing on. So what is interesting for this is Joe Manganiello has recently come out and said there was an absolutely epic fight at the end of what was the movie, but I presume it'd be slightly different if they're going down the road of a series. But he essentially said that he's going to take Batman down bit by bit because Batman was involved with the death of his son, and Batgirl will get involved. It's going to be an absolute massacre fight. But if you go back to see where this article was posted back in January, and this website's been talking about it months and months before then, is what Zack said. Zack didn't say all of this. Zack just mentioned the death of Robin, how Joker's involved, Bruce is the Force, and basically Wayne Manor exploded. Now, Zack Snyder said that in an interview with a trade, and it does make me laugh how people question this website when they literally posted this such a long time ago, and then Zack came out and said the exact same thing, which is very interesting. So there realistically isn't any updates to do with the Batflleck stuff. The stuff I've been like, you know, hinting and teasing on Twitter is stuff that we've heard previously is now coming to fruition from what we've been told. I'm not saying it's been greenlit, but from what I understand is it's going forward, and they will be meeting to talk about the Batfleck series and the Justice League 2 and the Justice League 3. Do you think it's a coincidence that, was it AT&T or was it Warner Bros or was it Warner Media or was it Warstu, that New Gods, that would include Granny Goodness, I presume, and Darkseid, although I've seen some very misleading stuff going around where it says Darkseid's New Gods cancelled. It was never referred to as Darkseid's New Gods, it was just New Gods. Do you think it's a mystery, a phenomenon, a conspiracy theory that Zack Snyder introduced the New Gods in his movie, and then all of a sudden they want nothing to do with the New Gods? They've been working on New Gods allegedly for like over a year, and all of a sudden it gets canned. Interesting. Now, the Trench one, I can understand why, because that was a random kind of movie, but it's interesting that there's talks going on for Justice League 2 and Justice League 3, which would involve the New Gods on a massive epic scale, and all of a sudden AT&T, because they finance everything, can it, regardless of whether it comes from Warner Media, Warner Bros, Warstu, and HBO Max, they canned it. So when people restore the Snyderverse, it's just very interesting to me. And then you get these fancy articles coming out going, DC wants to reboot Justice League. Really? They want to reboot Justice League? Why? Are they going to recast every single character? Really? Like this reboot in the DCEU from the Flashpoint movie has come out so many times. We already understand it's not a Flashpoint movie, is it? No, because it was based around Barry and his mother and Henry Allen. Now, what is interesting is, I don't know why people keep saying this, Matt Reeves' Batman movie has always been on Earth 2, but for some reason, people over the last few days have been blowing it up like it's a new phenomenon, it's a new story. We've always known this Robert Pattinson Batman was set on an Elseworld level, Elseworld universe. So why all of a sudden now are people blowing it up like it's a new phenomenon, it's a new story? So there's some fake news going around. So Ben Affleck Batman is going to be replaced by Robert Pattinson. No, he's not, because it's a different Earth, which makes no sense. So you're going to replace Ben Affleck, but that makes no sense. That really makes no... I mean, I swear, what needs to happen is everyone needs to look up the word multiverse, read the multiverse comic, and understand what a multiverse is. A multiverse has lots of different characters that are the same, but they're slightly different, which is ridiculous. It's the same thing with saying that JJ, who destroyed Star Wars, Calvin Ellis, or some different variation of Superman, will be replacing Henry Cavill's Superman, but he won't be. But The Rock is pretty much going to get Superman in his movie at some point. And then there's this story now that Melissa Benoist, she's done with Supergirl after this season on the CW. Somehow the Latino Supergirl that's appearing on the Flash movie is replacing her. That doesn't make any sense. It's a different interpretation. It's a different take on Supergirl. It's a completely different Supergirl, but these little websites, these fancy pieces, they love to run information without knowing anything. To me, it's almost like they don't read the comics. And then it goes on to say that Gal Gadot, Jason Momoa, and Amber Heard are the only 3 people that are going to survive the SnyderVerse and go over to the Hamadaverse, which makes no sense because Ben Affleck's in the Flash movie. Ezra Miller Flash is in the Flash movie. In order for it to reboot, you would have to completely recast everyone in the SnyderVerse or the DCEU with new actors. Or what's going to happen, or what most likely is going to happen, because creativity over at DC is pretty weak, is they're just going to have to change the characteristics of Ezra Miller Flash to a point where no one likes him. Because let's be honest, the Joss Whedon version of Ezra Miller Flash, everyone hated. And don't get me wrong, the Zack Snyder version of Ezra Miller didn't really get much more love, but people did like it a bit more than the interpretation in the Justice League. So this just makes me laugh, guys. It really does. Now, I get sent videos and articles all the time. Warstu, is it true the Flash movie is going to erase the Snyderverse from the canon? But if it's a multiverse, the Snyderverse is kind of irrelevant because that will be its own timeline. Like I keep saying, Shazam had BVS merchandise like in it. So does this mean Shazam 2 is going to be set in the Snyderverse and Black Adam's set in the Snyderverse? Because The Rock keeps saying he wants to fight the strongest, the hierarchy in the DCU is going to change. So does this mean going forward that everything after the Flash doesn't include Aquaman 2, doesn't include Shazam 2, doesn't include Black Adam, and they're going to create complete new movies that have nothing to do with any of the other interpretations? It is interesting to me that like these people put the clickbait out, start talking about all this information, and they don't know what the multiverse is. The multiverse can be interpreted in lots of different ways, but essentially it's just different stories based on the same characters, slightly different. So in other words, you could have 7 different verses going on, like the Hamadaverse, the Snyderverse, the Warstuverse. You could have loads of different verses and it'd all be part of the same continuity, yeah, because it'd all be part of something called the multiverse. So this is interesting, guys. So yeah, I've been told a lot of like stuff behind the scenes that obviously I'm not a scooper, I'm not a trade, I'm not an outlet. I'm just someone that gets told stuff and I'm talking into a microphone, and that's what I've been told. As far as I know, all the information that I've told you previously about the Ben Affleck HBO Max series, that has been backed up with the likes of Matt from the Light Podcast, Taylor from the Cultured Nerd. They've dropped a lot of information that was true and came back, and Zack Snyder literally said the same thing after the guys over the Cultured Nerd said has turned out to be true. So what I've heard from behind the scenes is the meeting's happening, or already did happen, Justice League 2 and 3. They're going to be talking about the whole Snyderverse. The whole Snyderverse. But what is interesting to me about this Flash movie is, from what we understand, there was not one interpretation or version of the Flash movie that didn't include Ray Fisher Cyborg. So are they sticking Supergirl in there to replace Cyborg? It's very weird how it was very vocal and very well known that Cyborg was a pinnacle part of the Flash movie, but all of a sudden it's not in there. And also something that is interesting, and this comes courtesy of Matt from the Light Podcast, is why did Ann Sernoff randomly start talking about the David Ayer cut of the Suicide Squad cut? No one asked her the question. She randomly came out with it. No, it's not happening. Like out of the blue. It's very interesting to me because I see everything from the outside and from the inside and think a lot of these things, if you knew what you knew, they wouldn't make sense of the public perception, because behind the scenes perception is very different to the public perception of what is actually going on. And a lot of this information probably will confuse you, but it will be clearer in the weeks and months. So just chill, guys. Restore the Snyderverse. It's happening. Continue the Monsterverse is happening, but don't attack. You don't need to attack these companies. Talk respectfully on Twitter, on Instagram, in the comments. You don't need to attack anyone. Attacking anyone is not going to get you anywhere. So this is an update on the Batflleck show, on Justice League 2, on Justice League 3, and everything we know. As far as I know, the information about the Flash movie rebooting and erasing the Snyderverse is absolute nonsense. Do you know why? Because it's the Hamadaverse. Hamada's going to do things his way, so of course it's not going to, dictate and have the same canon and the same storyline as Zack Snyder's verse, because Hamada is a completely different person. His creative thoughts are completely different. So it's just absolute nonsense, guys. So like always, just check your sources. Check your sources. And like I always say, guys, if I'm wrong, I will address it in a video. So like always, guys, check us out on Instagram at Warstu if you want to see the face behind the voice. Also check us out on Twitter, Warstu G, aka The Nightmare, and I'll catch you in another video very soon. Catch ya later.